Out.
Hi everybody, this is Eric Enge. This is the Digital Marketing Answers Show, and thrilled to have my good friend and huge, I don't know, superstar of Google Plus, Mr. Martin Traphagen, joining us today.
I think he's one person.
Yes, indeed, and check out his Plus Your Business or Plus Your Life communities. It's great places to get information about all kinds of stuff. Hi everybody. This is Eric Enge. This is bad.
We've all done it. We've all done it.
And
it's been a while. This is like
I just killed my other browser window. It's somewhere in there. Sorry everybody for that.
We've got Martin Traphagen here and it playing in the background. Should we start again? Do you know what I normally do in this situation, Eric? Do you know what I kind of go? Don't speak anyone. And I go, hi everybody, and welcome to. I cut off the bit that went before, so that nobody knows apart from was live.
There you go. Hi everybody. I'm Eric Enge. This is the Digital Marketing Answers Show. Really pleased to have Martin Shervington here with us today. Star of Google Plus and good friend, and rumored that he knows something about engagement along the way. And always pleased to have my co-host Mark Traphagen with me. So say hi, guys.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Always good to see you both. Do you know what? I like that the pair of you together. It's like a double act. I'm waiting to see where this goes.
Well, yeah, we're waiting to see where it goes too, because now Mark and I are both going to get very quiet and we're going to just let you talk. How's that sound?
For an hour. Point me in the direction at least. We've got comment tracker going, so we've got comments. So I'm going to have a look. I'm bringing it up and.
Yeah, I don't, Eric. I don't have comment tracker, just so you know. So.
Yeah, you have mentioned that before. I don't have a way to push that to you, so go into the chat window and you can pick up the link there for a public reshare. I apologize for that.
That's a public reshare. We'll get organised. Don't you worry.
So everybody,
pay no attention to the name behind
today is going to be about engagement. And the promise that we made in the event announcement is that we were going to, yes, we'll cover the basics and we'll start there, but we're going to try to go right into the master's class and get into examples or ideas for things that you can do when you're trying to do more than just your garden variety engagement. So how's that for a theme for the show today, guys?
I think it's all right. So, can I start then throwing a question at the pair of you? Mark's slightly distracted. He's engaged elsewhere. Why, Eric, is everybody concerned about engagement?
You know, it's a great question. And I think the heart of the answer really is that if you're looking at your business in a holistic perspective, relationships are going to be the driver of your success. And those relationships can take many forms. It can take forms that one-on-one relationships. But everybody who knows about your business or follows you or is interested in things you do, in theory, you have relationships with all of them of different kind. And when you engage with those people and have interactions, those relationships get deeper, and they bring more value to you and to the people that you have the relationships with.
Right.
How'd I do?
And that was the Digital Marketing Show, everybody, and Masterclass by Eric Enge in engagement. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, it's good. I think that's a great starting point. I think when we look at it and breaking it down, particularly when we're talking about Google Plus, the central thing is attention, I think. And I think that's the bit, which is we give things our attention. And when we, +1, when we comment, when we share, they are digital methods of showing that person or showing other people an indication of that attention being given, and we call it engagement. So when we hold, when we look, and I've got you on full screen, Eric, and I can see you there, and I'm paying attention to everything that you're doing, I'm engaged in the conversation. I know, every little smile and everything. And that's the bit which we've then digitized, every +1, every comment, every share. And I think that's the starting point of the method that we have. And you're subtly smirking. Why are you subtly smirking? What's going on? What's between you and Mark Trapp? He's looking up in I don't know what's going on. Right. So I think that there's lots of reasons why we want it, but the main one is it shows that somebody is giving us attention. But also, when we're talking about engagement on here, it changes after a while. To start with, when you are getting loads of +1s and Mr. Jingles is going crazy, you kind of feel you feel the energy. It feels good. It does. It feels good. And I think as the journey goes on, you still connect with that, but at a certain point, the comments and the shares and the contextualization that people add to your content in particular when they're sharing it on, as Mark Trapp is always a great one for adding real sort of big bonus content at the top of a share, that starts to connect you with people, and that really helps you to see that they relate to you. And I have three words that I use all the time, which is engage, relate, and connect. And I have done for the last 2 years, and it's the easiest way for me to look at it, is when people relate to content, they engage. And the more times they engage, the more the connection is being built between you and that person. And you feel it. You have it in your head. You have it as a neurological thing that, oh, Mark shared that post. And you experience that because you paid attention to it. How do I know I paid attention? Because the engagement was there. Why did he engage? Because you related to it. And that's what forms the connection. So I see, this is how I always break it down, connect, engage, and relate. And over time, the bit that we haven't touched on, and we can go into the journey of, is it starts to become a lot about the amplification and about who is amplifying content and then the effect that that has in search. And we can all relate to this, because we can geek out. And I'm sure we sat there going, okay, at a certain number of shares by that group of people, it leads to a sustained search result of whatever it might be for whatever terms that we're looking at. And I think that, and it's like with Mark got out on the weekend, looking at the personalized bit, looking at who is sharing, what is going on, and we can understand. So why does engagement matter? Engagement's a way of us being able to break down potentially a series of metrics, +1s, comments, shares, from whom, and we have it. We're not getting the spreadsheet out and necessarily analyzing it, but we're feeling it. We know that a certain amount of amplification from those people can lead to certain results in search. So I think if people value search, social SEO, engagement matters.
I think you've outlined it well there, Martin. And I was going to say that there are two sides of this coin, two aspects. You've talked a lot about the human side, which Eric started out with, which I think all three of us agree is the most important, especially for the long term, for the long range. Those relationships that you build, that trust that you build, et cetera, is going to reverberate down for potentially years to come. As those people even get more engaged with you, come to trust you more, come to rely on you more, come to look at you as an expert or a source or whatever, and they're more likely to amplify you, as you said. So those relationships are very important. But there's also the, for lack of a better term, the mechanical side, as you started to bring out, and not just for SEO. But in many ways, the way that social networks work, each of them have their own algorithms and work a little bit differently, but almost all of the major social networks today do measure and evaluate the value of a profile or a page by engagement. That's a major factor. And the more engaged with the content, your content is, generally the more likely you are to be showing up in that network. One of the cold hard facts of social media today that people still don't like and they haven't gotten used to is that almost no social network shows you everything from everybody that you follow. They realize that and I know Facebook has done tests of this, and they say even though people say I want to see everything from my friends, that if they see everything they go to Facebook less because it's just too much. And there's too much trivia in there. So algorithms are built to determine what should you see more of, and engagement is one of those factors. So you're driving a lot of things through that engagement, both in the relational side and the more mechanical side of things.
Yeah, I think there's something that you mentioned, Martin, that I want to draw out a little bit more too. And you talked a little bit about metrics, and in the Google Plus world, things like +1s, shares, comments, but I think you also want to learn to look a little bit deeper. Like, how often does somebody plus mention you and bring you into a conversation for your opinion on something? That's a really interesting measure of engagement, because that means people have decided that you know something about a topic, they're interested in your opinion, and they're looking to bring you in and make you a part of it. So that's a metric. Or how often does somebody, again, Google Plus related, how often do they invite you and ask you to come on to a Hangout On Air event? And these are like measures of engagement that go beyond the things that are easily counted.
Yeah. No, I mean, anything. Every email that we have going back and forth in the Gmail platform. Every click that we have on our content, which is in search, all of these things are going to count within the engagement. Just breaking it down. Now, interesting enough, when people plus mention you in, it's really tricky, because it's a tool that if people chance it and you don't know them very well, and they plus mention you into a comment. And I mean, it happens all the time. You go there, and if you haven't got anything to add, then you might just plus the comment just to acknowledge that you've been called in. But that person's experience of it may be that they wanted more, because that's why they plus mentioned you in. Do you know, it's quite a funny, and it's down to relationship. Whereas if you or Mark, who I know very well, plus mention me in, then it's likely that it will have been the right call, and that there was something to say, something to do. And that's another sort of dynamic. That, I look at a lot of the psychology of it. And when people are building relationships, what chances they take in the process, because they are tools. But with all things, it's about, like, would you just phone somebody? Hangouts. When I have my Hangouts pretty much locked down, and sometimes people will come through, and I have to make a decision whether I take that call or not, because they're the one thing which pops up on the screen when I'm in the middle of writing the things. So all of these bits it's engagement. I mean, one of the most personal ways to engage is this, in Hangouts and Hangouts on Air. And I think that time, and I think that all of the data, I mean, if you want to get into the depth, all of these things are what happens in our relationships after this. After we've engaged in this way, do we spend more time? Do I plus more of your posts? Do I share more of your things? What happens? And the whole relationship dynamic just flows on.
Yeah, it's interesting, because we can draw out one tip right there, which is that if you're looking to build a relationship with somebody and you know that they're an expert on a certain topic matter, you can plus mention them into a conversation, and that could work. But if you plus mention them into a conversation and I don't know, the timing isn't right for them, or maybe they don't feel comfortable talking about it, or they don't like the context in which it's being discussed, then you're taking some risks in trying to begin a relationship that way.
And everybody does. I mean, you do. You are taking a risk, and you've got to judge it. And I think that's why the Google Plus is a journey. Over the first few months, you kind of find your feet, and then you start to get into a groove. And I think that if you're really keen and enthusiastic in the first few months, it's got a plus and a minus to it. See, Benji agrees, engaging all the way through. Comment says, he says, check the comment tracker. He always does. It's very good.
Yeah.
So I think that it does change. And I think the easiest way I can see is that Google Plus becomes easier when there's ease in the relationships. That's really the sign, is when you just know where you are with the relationship. You still got to work very, very hard, but you know that somebody will take your call made. And I think that it's using the engagement mechanisms of all of the things, plus one's comments, in posts, Gmail, if that's an appropriate route, Hangouts on Air, going to the events, commenting in the threads, all of that stuff, everything we've got available, going to YouTube, commenting in YouTube if it's appropriate over there. So, people still, yeah, they do. And all of these things are part of the entire ecosystem. Do you know what? It's an interesting one. Let's talk about something else, which if people want tips, cross-platform connections. If you're looking at engagement, one of the things that I know, I like, isn't it nice, this new comment track? I like the font. So one of the things, we'll come back to this, one of the things is cross-platform connections. So even though I don't reply a huge amount on Twitter, like the pair of you in the last week, I think we've had interactions on Twitter just because there's stuff been going on. So I tweeted and they come back, and so that helps to bond. And I think that again with Facebook, if people are Facebook friends, again you get a different psychological experience. And again, if you're having conversations in different places, it's a bit like having a conversation at the gym, then one at the restaurant, and then one in the workplace, and it moves your head from place to place. So I think there's a lot of value in cross-platform stuff as well. And real life. The pair of you, we had lunch together. Look at this.
Yes, we did. And,
yes, we did.
Oh boy, there we get the echo thing.
It's okay.
Yeah. So
I was going to come back to the question. What was the question?
All right. So we had a question.
So we had a question.
Engagement be different depending on the social media platform used. And I lost the question. But that was,
I could see that. There we go. I think this one here. There we go. Should engagement be different depending on the social media platform used? George, I've analysed Google Plus much more, so much more than Twitter and Facebook. So pretty much I'm talking from a Google Plus perspective, except for the comment about I think there's value in cross-platform connections, which are very simple. Tweet people stuff, say thank you. That's the level that I'm getting to with that. But within Google Plus, it's quite a strange experience. It's almost like it feels like very much home. And I'm in the Hangout On Air, and then I'm in the stream, and then if I'm in my Gmail, everything's where I spend most of my time. So the parameters are kind of set. And you know, if you understand the mechanisms, and you have the relationships, and you have the content, and you have your stream set up for the people to be flowing through for the content that you want to be engaging on, then you sort of know what you're doing, you know where you are. And this is why I say it takes a while, but once you get to that point and you sort of, okay, I see what's going on here, and I think it's probably about 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, you get toward maybe a little bit longer, it starts just to make a lot more sense. And you can almost forget the analysis to some extent and focus on the relationships. But because I tend to be talking with people that are, and we've just had, in fact, people on the thread who've just gone through or going through a program at the moment, it's breaking it back down to understand where people are at in that stage of the journey. Because I can talk about, and I'm quite happy at some point in this session, we can talk about campaigns and how you can amplify content, to bring people together, and get really interesting search results. You can do that, and there's a lot of engagement involved in that, and it's not easy. And getting stuff trending, it isn't easy. But you've got to get the relationships in place first in order for people to trust enough that they'll come along with you to do those things. And they have to be rewarded. They have to feel emotionally connected to it all. So I focus really much, George, on Google+.
I think if I can bring in something on cross, here's the echo. I don't know. Yours, Martin, but I'm getting an echo myself. Forge ahead. The cross-platform side, the Twitter, I have seen some of my most valuable relationships on Twitter now are people that have been Google Plus. Followed me, or I followed them over to Twitter, and because we've built a relationship here, they have become some of my primary amplifiers, and I have them on Twitter. So I think that's another way in which these relationships can work cross-platform, is that you get one place can add value to another place.
Yeah, I agree. And like I see, Dustin's on the threads, and engagement will definitely differ based on the platform, because each platform has unique etiquette nuances, absolutely. And they have system differences as well. And if you look at Twitter, it's not threaded. I like threaded conversations, and I like the dynamics, and I understand how those things work. Whereas with the Twitter stream, I don't relate to it as well. So that's why I tend not to be replying a huge amount, because for me, I'd rather bring people over on the Google Plus post. But they are different. But the idea, the concept of engagement is somebody does something that indicates that they paid attention, etc.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like both Mark and I are getting massive echo when we talk, so we're going to let you talk a lot today, Martin. It stopped as soon as you muted, Martin, so we'll see how that goes. But I want to go back to something you said earlier, which was you talked about that we engage on Twitter. I think when you're talking about engagement, engagement isn't about a single platform. That's, I think, kind of what you were getting at. It's a multi-dimensional thing that happens across many different places. It can move into real life, like the lunch that we had together in San Francisco. It can be on Twitter. You know, we might be on some other platform next week for all we know, and that's just really important to view. It's not about what you're trying to accomplish on that platform. It actually really is about the relationship.
It is, and I've just had people ping me that I've got really bad echo. I haven't had a bad echo when I've been doing Hangouts on Air.
No, but it cured it as soon as you went to your...
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
It appears to be gone now, so we're blaming you, Martin.
Oh, it was me, but it hasn't happened. When I run my own, it doesn't happen. See? What's going on.
There you go. So our relationship is broken, Martin. That's what it means.
But let's look at this, right? So, if in the early days, we probably all would have incredibly stressed ourselves out at that moment. And I could be going, oh my God, I've just ruined a show, and people are looking at it on the threads, you know, all that. Oh, and you feel, after a while, it's like you just do your best. You spend your time, you know, nothing's, you know, intentional, it's not meant to be taken personal, and the relationships are okay. And that's something which is, I'm saying, which is the ease comes after a while, is that you know, you just kind of know where you're at, and if people are doing the best, then that's great. Yeah. And it is definitely a team feel.
It's something.
I think that's the extended.
If you take a public speaking course, you know, or maybe even an improv course like you've done, Martin, one of the things that they teach you about dealing with your fear of an audience is that in most cases, an audience, if they have any knowledge of you at all, or if you've been, you know, established already in the audience's mind as somebody that's worth coming to a theater to sit down and hear, they're naturally on your side. That's a hard thing to believe, but their inclination is to be on your side. They're not looking for you to fail.
Yeah.
And even if you do mess up a little bit, they'll pull for you as long as you come back and you keep going through. And that's the power of that, the relationships. And I think that we have that with our audience. They know that sometimes there's going to be technical difficulties in these Hangouts, or something's going to be wrong, or we'll be introduced as Martin Traphagen, but they'll be forgiven.
That never happened. Anybody watching this in the future is going to go, what? 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 Well, except those watching now know.
Yes. At least I didn't call you Marvin.
That's true. That one has happened.
Yes, I know. But in any case, I got a question here from Suzanne Baracchini. I'm going to pop that up. Sorry if this was already discussed. We'd love to discuss engaging in communities as a brand. Okay. So, first things first, engaging as a brand. Bring a personal touch to the brand. Favorite Mark Trap, little tip from ages ago, which I've done as well. Phone call. Anyone pick up a phone? Anyone got a phone? Anyone's phone going? Just mentioning it. I'm just saying, has anyone got a phone going? Not that it matters. It's not.
It's just, yeah, we're just throwing away business, incoming business.
Yeah, Eric's just like, excuse me a sec.
Well, the sad part is that it's a spam call that came into the conference line phone we have here, which no one ever calls. So I didn't bother to unplug that one. My phone, my desk phone, is unplugged. But anyway.
It's okay. Okay.
So we're good at the technical. We have covered all the technical difficulties.
Everything that possibly go wrong has gone wrong, right?
Should we start again and then just edit that bit out as well? So yes, engaging in communities as a brand page. First thing, favorite Mark Traphagen quote is, Suzanne, when you post, if you comment, for instance, make sure people know it's you, or if it's a brand manager, and make it personal. So have a little bracket, potentially say, hey, posted by, and just close bracket, so that people can connect. Now, that's just as a general rule, is be personal as a brand, because people like to connect the people that are behind the brands. Now, when you post into communities, you've got to be careful, because the community has got owners, and it's got moderators, and it's got guidelines, and it's got a shared culture which a brand page is entering into, a person's entering into, and they don't necessarily understand the dynamic that's been going on for potentially a year and over a year and a half. So you've got to take it easy. And then I think that once you understand the parameters and you see what other people are posting and what other people are getting engagement on, and you're engaging on that as well, and you'll become part of the community, then posting content into the community that's aligned to what already works makes sense. But if it's not on topic and you haven't built the relationships, and the moderator, I tell you that one of the best things, let the moderators know who you are prior to posting your stuff in. You will have a soft landing on when you post, because they go, oh, I know it's Suzanne. That's great. And if you've got a big community with lots of moderators, then you're going to have to connect with the main ones. But if they don't know and it's on the edge, because some stuff gets picked up in the spam filter, which actually then you let in, for instance, or some stuff is in the community stream, which could be considered to be not appropriate for community and gets thrown out. So that's an action both ways, an action of a moderator. They decide to let it in, or the moderator decides to throw it out. So I think that's one of the main things, is to build relationships with the people who are there.
That's a great tip, Martin. A great advanced tip that I hadn't even thought of before, but I think it's a very good one, building that relationship in advance. The thing that I've always said ever since we first noticed that brand pages have that ability on Google+, that brand pages, unlike brand pages on Facebook, they can reach out and make relationships without having to be sought out first. You can go out, you can comment as a brand page. Not only can you comment in communities or join communities, but you can comment on other people's posts. You can plus mention them, etc. Pretty much everything that a personal profile can do. But the thing I've always said about that from the beginning was that if you're acting as a brand page, especially in a community, you need to be on extra good behavior. There's that immediate, when people see a brand page posting, of course, not blinders, but the warning signs go up immediately. This is a brand page. They're here to sell me, so I can expect spam, or I can expect self-promotion. If you go out of your way not to behave that way, I think another thing, in addition to building those relationships in advance, is maybe your first number of involvements. I can't put a day or a number on it, but first several involvements ought to be nothing of your own at all.
Yeah.
But, sharing other people's stuff or engaging on other people's posts. Just show yourself to be a good citizen who's there to contribute to and help build the community, not just promote your own brand and your own products.
Yeah,
great.
totally.
I've got extra. I've got extra bits to add on. This is good, Suzanne, because these are extra tips. When people post in, and I'm talking particularly about the communities that I run, when people post in, make it about the community members, as opposed to just generic stuff. And that being particularly, okay, so there's a bit. If you're gonna initiate from within, which most people don't, most people share a post they've already shared on their profile. Okay, so we're doing it from a brand page. They've already shared on the brand page. They'd share that in. Oh, that's going to be on the edge. If they've done that because they've got a brand page, sharing a brand page's post into the community, that sends a warning flag to me, because they're using it as a distribution place. If, however, they really did something very nice that paced the culture of the community and the people in the community, and they made it about the community members, then that might be okay, but you're going to have to feel it. So let's have a look at the alternative. You initiate the post from within the community as the brand page. Okay, let's break it down. You've got the title, you've got the first, I'm going to give you some engagement tips here, right? So when you've got the comments bit at the top of a post, you've got the first 4 lines that show, and then you've got to read more. When that post is reshared, it collapses to 2 lines that you see. So if you're looking for engagement, the first 2 lines are what the reshare will have when it moves into the stream. That's the bit. So people will then share, and they can recontextualize it. They can add a comment bit at the top, and they can be reselling essentially your content, which has still got those 2 lines. Now, test it yourself. have a look at the reshares and look at the psychological value and experience that is had from those two lines and compare it with ones that are done well and ones that are not. And you'll start to see the difference. And there's a lot, this is really getting into the subtleties of formatting posts. So, in the community, if you initiate the post, then you want to make sure that it's done well and it's done for the community, and that the structure, okay, the structure needs to be there. But the big thing I would say, and the thing that often gets my goat, is if the images are somehow overly branded as the brand page, or if they're overly branded even as the person, if it's too much, this is about me as opposed to about the community, then it sends a flag. So I think there's a lot of bits there.
Yeah, and I think one part that you were kind of getting to there at the end, Martin, is, again, you've got to treat it like you're there for the relationships, right? If you're there to just promote your stuff, it'll come through in the end. That's
the thing. If you've had so somebody posted the other day, and it's unfortunate, they posted the other day, and I should never actually engage on why I throw stuff out. As a community moderator, I should just let it. If I'm ever going to throw it out, I should throw it out. But I said it's just a bit too self-promotional and so on. And what it was, so this is a tip here, Suzanne, and it was nobody that I know maybe they'll be watching now, and in which case I'd like there to be the relationship. But what they did is they put a picture, and it had a picture of stuff they do, and it had all of the list of the things they do, and then a big phone number at the bottom. And it was done in the intro section. It was on the edge because, like, but I say no self-promotional blogs because I try and reduce that so it doesn't just become a billboard. So I threw it out. And it was a difficult call. But what I then said is, but I'd love you to come back, say hi again, because it'd be great to have the relationship. But it's difficult as the community moderator. This is the other side of it. It's very, very hard as a call sometimes, because if you do that, you're potentially damaging the relationship if the person doesn't understand that there's a lot of history that's gone on, really, with all of these things. I have got something else to add as well, which Mark came, but I'll come back to it. Yeah.
Okay, I had a comment that I want to bring in before we get off this because it's on topic, but go ahead.
No, you go. No, go for the comment first.
Right, just quickly, this might help clarify for other people. Charles Dunkley is asking, so as a moderator, I should post in our community my own participation in offering content. When posting in our community as the page, it should be to engage other content members have posted. I think it's important to clarify because, no, Charles, we're not saying it's that black and white. We're not saying you can never post your own content as a page, but that simply that you need to, if you're coming into a community as a brand page, you need to be very careful about how you approach that, especially initially. Once you've built the relationships, I think this is summarizing everything Martin's been saying here, once you've built the relationships, once you have trust, once the community and especially the moderators feel that you're there for the community, not just for yourself, then as long as it's okay within the guidelines of the community, you can certainly share some of your own content.
Right, but I'd like to put a context or really an analogy to that, which is, so imagine that you've moved to a new neighborhood, and this is an example that Mark has heard me use before, right? And you get invited for the first time to the a neighborhood party. You certainly don't walk around and ask everybody for $5 just as you meet them. Say, hey, give me $5. That's not the way you build a relationship. But after you've known people for a while, if you actually need the $5 for some reason, you could probably ask someone for $5, and that's okay. But it still isn't the primary thing you're communicating. You're working some amount of, hey, can you help me with this? And a more practical example might be, hey, I just got a cord of wood delivered. I need some help stacking it. That's kind of a big ask, right? You can ask for things once in a while, but you're probably spending a lot more time helping others out or just being part of the group. So you're the same way that you view that neighborhood situation as a set of relationships that matter that you have to not only nurture in the beginning, but continue to nurture all along, that's a great way to think about how you behave in a community.
And absolutely, in the early days, there's no rush, folks, because if you think that it's going to happen in a month or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, whatever it is for you, it's probably not. This is a really steady, just step by step, build the relationships, produce content, build up trust. That's what it's about. And it isn't quick. And I think that the people who think that there's a quick win to be had by sharing stuff in, and I know Suzanne's not saying this at all, and not where the question's coming from, there are people that, well, there are people that just spam the community thinking there's somehow an advantage. I mean, it's just totally different mentality to what we're doing. So I'm going to kind of jump back before, because there's a really interesting point here that Mark has alluded to, and we haven't discussed for a long time. Well, certainly not ages, Mark. People don't necessarily realize that things change, and everyone sees the change, but they have no idea of the experience of the people that went through what was happening prior. And I'm going to give an example. Brand pages weren't able to do certain things. So this is what Mark was saying, is they didn't have the same abilities as profiles. So brand pages couldn't comment on people's posts unless they'd followed you back. Was it that at the time?
Yeah, they had to be following you. In the beginning, it was just
you had to follow.
They had to be
follow you first.
You had to follow you to even comment. Yeah, it's like, hold on, the people don't see, and so we had these speed bumps in all of these things. And then, having had that, we started to understand the etiquette required that profiles somehow were protected in the early days from these brand pages. And then there was the, oh no, brand pages can do the same thing as, and then that lasted a day or 2 days or whatever. And then it hasn't been all spam central. It hasn't been a problem. It's all been okay, as it so often is when change happens. And yet, because we've kind of been through that, we see another aspect with pages, because we have a different experience. We've been building up the relationships as the priority, not just doing these other actions. So I think it's great to reflect, because we can see that this is what Google are very good at what they do. They bring out something and they let us get used to it.
Hey, I'm going to actually put up a demonstration of our advice in live action right here in this Hangout. Ardia Coaching has asked, would you post that personal name with every post, or just every so often? And then, of course, Michael J. Coffey has kindly followed that advice and included his name with the post. So this is cool in a couple of levels, because he's following good advice in many levels.
Yeah.
Because he's asking a question that's in context to the show, and he actually asked us about 12 minutes ago, but the conversation kept rambling, so I didn't fill it in before. But this is great, and now the key before we turn around to answering the question is just to make sure that you stay with this and you don't rush it at any time, Michael, and you kind of keep it's about being in context and the relationships and being a part of it and getting people to embrace you because of how you become a part of adding value to their lives. But to their question.
Let me dive in. Keep it up, but let me dive in. So our dear coaching, and Michael J. Coffey. What I've got to do in order for me to know in future that our dear coaching is Michael J. Coffey, I have to experience enough times the connection between those two entities, between the page and the profile. And once I've got that connection, like if Stone Temple Consultant comes up, then I know it's got connected with Eric or Mark, and they may differentiate if they were posting from the page. When Yana posts from G Plus Expertise, it's changed the name, didn't it? G Plus Expertise. It's Yana. I recognise it. And hopefully with people with Plus Your Business, they need to associate with me or one of the team, and you get the connection between the two things. Until that point comes, Then having things like posted by Michael J. Coffey. By the way, this is Michael. You don't need to do it on the same thread, Michael. If we've got that, if we've clocked it and we can go back to it, but on different threads, then other people may not know. And I think that that's one way. And the more that you need people to know who you are from your profile, the more important it is that you do this. Whereas if it's more of just a throwaway comment and you're not really seeking the connection, then I think you can probably just post on the page.
I think also, if I might add, just in a community, that after a time, and I've seen this in some of the larger communities that we all operate in, that after a while, when a brand page has kind of proven itself and it's become part of the community and they're just accepted, that because you might worry about, well, what about new people? New people coming in might see that brand page and freak out if it doesn't have a name on it. But they'll get on, they'll figure out pretty quickly, even just psychologically, from the way that other people in the community are responding. If other people are treating that brand page just like a normal person, like, you know, hey, it's Wheel Media again, it's Plus Your Business again, then then somebody coming in will see that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's associated trust because it's been built up within the context of the community, and so it just gets transferred across. But it's interesting, actually. Yeah, they probably become more in their own right, being okay, invited to the party.
Right, and I mean, honestly,
it's a great question. It's a really good question.
Can happen.
I didn't know we were going to speak for 41 minutes. I said to Eric, "You sure? We should finish early. We're going to run out of things to say."
We're not gonna run out of things to say, Mark.
We haven't even hit about 5 or 6 questions I've got backed up here from listeners. So don't worry.
Yeah, totally. But I think just to draw this out yet a little bit more, I mean, even as an individual, you can easily cross the line when you jump into a community. So you have to earn that trust, no matter what entity you come in at. Maybe there's a little more distrust when it comes in as a business, but you gotta earn your way in no matter what. Okay, Mark, you want to fire up a question?
Let's do this. Go on.
Okay.
Well, go ahead, you got it up there.
Which mistakes should be avoided in social media engagement, specifically to Google+? The easy answer is all of them. But I think
you should always avoid the mistakes. Yeah, I think in everything in life that's good advice. Avoid mistakes.
But we'll get more specific. Sorry about that, George. I just had to have fun with that part of the question.
I've got 2. Can I do 2?
Excellent.
Engage, right. One of them's a pet thing, which I'll come on to in a second. First one, inviting people to communities who have no interest whatsoever in that community and probably never will. That is one thing, and seeking engagement within that and just thinking and trying to get people in. And the early days, so there's a lot of nostalgia here. In the early days, there was a frenzy of people trying to get everyone into their community, a frenzy. And then after a while, we understood that it was not just about relationships, it's about niche, it's about conversation, it's about building value for the community members over time. And when there are invites to communities, which if you just don't know the person has any interest, then it's better to build a relationship with the person first and then invite them, because it can feel a little bit spammy. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, same thing for events. For me, getting event invites that are not from people that I know or from people who just don't know if I'm into that thing, some of them are just off the wall. It's just something which is, So those are the 2 things that I find that punctuate my attention. That's the thing. If you want, when somebody sends a notification, let me explain what happens with notifications. This is kind of useful just as a thing, and I'll let Mark speak. So I use Gmail as a way, yes, thank you, as a way to filter all my plus mentions into a social tab. That's what I do. So if you ever want my attention, plus mention me. If you don't plus mention my name, then the other option happens. Notifications, and I get it there as well, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to see it. And people find, and people say, eventually, it goes over the 99 plus. It does. It doesn't take much to get it, so that you don't use it in the way you do in the early days. So when I click that, it brings down the list, and if I have invites to an event that I don't relate to, invite to a community I don't relate to, then I just don't engage to the same extent. And I think that that's where the plus mention is so powerful when you want somebody's attention. because I know that that's how I filter mine. So I just think that call people in, invite people to things that are very much aligned to them, what they're doing, and in their interest, not just in your interest.
Yeah, I think another mistake that I would bring up is trying to trick people into engagement. This really was birthed on Facebook when people became aware that Facebook's algorithm was heavily weighted toward engagement. And in the early days when Facebook was less sophisticated in its algorithm, it was like any kind of engagement would get your content shown more. And so people just did all kinds of things to kind of trick people into +1ing or resharing something, clicking through to content that they really weren't interested in, those sorts of things. It's interesting to see, there was just an announcement yesterday that Facebook has now improved its algorithm, that they are actually going to be watching for clickbait type of content, like where you put a provocative headline up on a post, but when people click through, the content isn't really what they were expecting to get. You're just trying to get that click through. And Facebook's going to be watching for that, where if people click on something, then quickly come back to the Facebook stream, that's going to be an indication that they were fooled into something, or that they didn't get what they were looking for, and that brand's content will be devalued in the Facebook stream.
Well, hold on. Think about search, Mark, but think about search in the same way. Because we touched on this before about bounce rates. And I know you talk about the long click versus the short click, but the same principles in search. Essentially, if stuff has surfaced, people go to the site and they leave after 10 seconds, and everybody's doing that, it's likely within the algorithm it's going to, in some way, be devalued because it's not delivering on the promise of that, all other things being equal, as opposed to the other links.
But what I want to say is that aside from the any SEO or Facebook algorithm implications,
It's a good word. It's a good word.
Yeah, write that word down. That there is a bad precedent and a bad mark on your brand for the long term. I know when I go through Facebook now, there are content sites that when I see, if somebody shares something and I see, oh, that looks interesting, and then I see at the bottom where it says the name of the site that it came from, and I won't click because they burned me too many times. I know if I click on that, I'm going to either end up with 17 pop-up ads, or it's going to be thin content, or it's not going to be what it was promised. And so, that might work as a short-term goal, although I don't think it works as well anymore. But you're burning your brand when you fake people, when you try to fool people into engagement.
Yeah, and then one I just want to just reiterate, because it's been mentioned earlier in the show. It's a long game, and
yes.
Patience is the key, and you just really have to be willing to be patient. And I think a kind of related thing is the ROI in social media isn't about people are going to see what you're doing and click through to your site and they're going to go buy something. That's not the way that works. You really have to expect that a lot of the benefits you're going to get are going to be indirect. By the way, very powerful, but indirect. So one of my favorite ways of talking about it is if you do a good job with content marketing and you have a good social media following, and you have good friends with powerful followings who follow you on social media, and you share some content, chances are that content is going to get exposure to lots of people, and that might cause links to go to that content, which, that drives SEO value to that content. But if it's good content, it's probably not directly converting to sales for you either, right? And you're building your brand and your reputation, and so you still haven't even gotten to financial benefit to your business or to you as a person. And then finally you get to a point where, because your reputation and visibility are such, when that person who's a potential customer out there has a need, they think to call you because they feel like they have a relationship with you. Boy, that's pretty indirect.
Yeah. Can I do the but you're absolutely right. Can I do the antithesis of it? Because let's just do, if you want more engagement, here's a tip for more engagement. Mark, you ready for this?
I'm waiting. I got my pen and paper out.
Use cat gifs. It's the secret.
Ooh, we haven't thought of that.
Use cat gifs. And memes, but cat gifs. Let's stick with cat gifs. So here's a quick story. Plus Your Cat. There was a page called Plus Your Cat. I set it up straight away after the page views metric came, and shared cat gifs pretty much one a day for about 40 days until my loyal and long-suffering assistant said to me, "Can we stop now? We've got 1 million views," because she was sharing them every day. And I said, "Now we can stop." And the reason why is I wanted to create a case study that showed that just using cat gifs, which we made, you taking YouTube videos and turned them in most of the time, we shared them and got great engagement. And it got the view count up to that point. And if you want view count, then that's what you do, you share cat gifs. And I did it because it will be useful later on as a case study. Now, if you are looking for engagement, which is lots of people to +1 and share your content, or to comment, lol, or, oh, they're cute, lovely, oh, look at the kittens, or that sort of stuff, which is great, use cat gifs, because that's what will happen. That isn't the sort of engagement that is going to really get you where you want to be in terms of the relationships, in terms of what Mark and Eric are talking about. It is, however, engagement. So it's understanding what the intention is for being on Google+, and it's knowing that in 40 days you can have probably a couple of hundred followers on the page as well. But what is the value behind it? And it's just engagement for engagement's sake within the platform is my feeling, and certainly it's my feeling. Now, if you do a test and you bait a image, doesn't have to be a cat, you could have a llama, anything, but you have an image which lots of people are going to share because they love the image, and then you have a link which is to something really important on your site that you're hoping that people will click. They won't. Very few people will click because that's the trickery. And that's what Mark was saying. You can't, it's just, it doesn't work. It's incongruous. So if, however, you relate it and you say, and you have a nice bit of content and you have a link, and then you utilize this as a way of moving the good content and the good link, and you've all related it, then that might well work. But if you're just doing it as a trick, then I'd say it's probably not going to work.
But there is a way to do it, and Mark actually does this wonderfully for Stone Temple Consulting.
I know. Well, no, that is the way. That's what I'm saying. That is the way, is when you relate the image to the message, but also you've got a brand thing going around it. You've already got an existing brand that people know that you're doing the cat thing on Saturday, and they know you're utilizing this, and that's good. That will work. It's just if you're doing it every day in order to try and get people through. I'm just saying that it's understanding how to do it in a way which is in your audience's interest, who are actually the ones, not even your audience. It's the audience thing is odd, because really what you want is to find your tribe. You want the 100 people that every time you post go, wow, I want to see your stuff, and you've added a GIF on it. I'm going to share it with more people because I want them to go through to your site and see what else you've got. That's what you really want. That's the sort of engagement that you want. And it only takes, if you have 100 people that love what you do on Google+, you are rocking it.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing. What you've done is you've exposed the fine line here in a wonderful way, Martin, right? Because what you've led us to is that if you're looking for engagement, it has to be engagement with a purpose, comma, but all the stuff we said before about not being too direct about that purpose. The purpose isn't buy my stuff. The purpose is I'm doing this to have you develop a relationship with me around stuff that I really value and hopefully can add value to your life about. So if you're a digital marketing agency, then you want to hopefully publish good stuff about digital marketing and create engagement about that. But it's all non-commercial. It's all just to help the other people. So yes, there's a purpose.
But the commercial is actually just, it's not trying to be transactional. That's the thing, is it's not trying to close here and now. It's actually saying build the relationship, and when people are ready, they're going to come and go, do you know what, I want to have a conversation with you, Eric, Martin, because I know, like, and trust, based upon the interactions that we've had, the amount of lurking that goes on, the amount of people, and I do it, I look and go, okay, that's what's going on. That's what's happening. I may not +1, I may not comment, I may not share, so, but you see what's happening, and when you can do that, you go, yeah, I like the way that person's interacting on that thread. Everything that's public, we can all go around and see these different conversations and go, yeah, I like the fact that the people like that content, that music, that environment, whatever it might be. And it's all down to relationships.
All right, let's see what Mark has here.
We're down to 5 minutes here, and this is a Q&A show for the audience, so let's get to some of their questions. Sean Manaher asked quite a while ago, there are a lot of data points we could measure, but what is the most important metric regarding engagement we should be looking at? What do you think, Martin, as far as what metrics do you look at for engagement?
Who is resharing content?
Okay, we're waiting for the detail.
That's it.
No, actually, it was perfect the way you said it.
A lot of people put this hierarchy, and it can be a little stiff, but I think there's some truth to it that sharing, when somebody reshares something, that is the most engaged action they can possibly take, because they've gone through the motion of resharing it. They create a post, and they're saying to their audience, like, I like or trust this content enough that I think you should see it. That's the highest level. And then, we'd probably say below that is commenting, because that takes some effort, as long as it's a comment beyond, like, great post. And then, plus wanting would be the lowest level, because it requires the least effort.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too, because I like the who is resharing your content, or who is sharing content is really interesting to know. But it's easy to get trapped too, in the sense of that it's only useful if it's someone who has a ton of followers or something like that. Because I know from my perspective that there's some people who thankfully, really like stuff that I write, and they almost always reshare it. When they first, started doing that, they, had a tiny number of followers, but I engaged with them, had great conversations. And by the way, they haven't slowed down a whit, and now they've got 15,000 followers, and their followings are growing, and
it's getting busier.
Yeah, it's exactly. Well, that's it. And I mean, people who you welcome in and you help develop on the platform. This is a really great advanced engagement tip right here, right? Help people who are at an earlier stage than you, because it might not be that way in 3 to 6 months.
But it's all relationships, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing, is that after a while you have to suspend the difference. And what I like collaborating. And we've done stuff together. We've all done stuff together. There's lots of people I collaborate with projects. If you're looking at engagement, that's a great way of engagement. That really matters, because it brings you together. You then have a end product that you share publicly. You say, hey, we worked on this together. And the engagement on those things, whether it be infographics, infographics as a primary example, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shares, because people like the finished product and they like the way that two people came together and said, let's do something. And it's a creative process. So I think that's a very powerful method. And if people are seeking relationships, then that's good. Is look at how you could collaborate and put yourself in a position where people know what you do and know what you can do. And if you can do infographics, give me a shout. Always interested in infographics.
Totally. So we're almost literally at the end of the hour. So I'm just going to invite people who are watching here. Just make a quick comment if you want to see Martin back on the show.
Just nothing. If not, just nothing. Just leave it quiet. You've got a minute of quiet.
Your engagement counts here, folks. Your engagement counts.
Yeah, your engagement counts. So.
And also, I tell you what. If anybody knows his name, if anybody comes up with his name on the thread, I'm going to be very impressed. Let's see. Just a little thing. Just.
Am I allowed to answer the question? I'm not allowed to answer.
No, you can't. Yeah. There's a new thing coming out in relation to him. There's lots of new things coming out.
You've come into our Hangout, and you're branding your own thing.
Yeah, but I didn't have the Plus Your Business in the background. I only had a little stretch.
Okay,
there you go. Yeah. Well, there you go. See. Well, you could have had a backdrop too. That would have been cool. So.
I know. I thought it was one too much.
So anyway, Martin, you want to offer any closing remarks, Martin, so we can wrap this puppy up, so to speak, and you can get back to your puppy, I guess.
Do you know he's quite good downstairs, isn't he? He's good. I think that The questions have been great. So thanks to everybody. That is such a powerful way to connect with people, is to come to events and ask questions. And I know we didn't get to everybody, so sorry about that. They did ask me to speak. They pointed me in the direction. They just interrupted. So asking questions is really, really powerful. But events, do you know what I like? I like being able to speak the response more than type the response. Just my way. So this really works well for me. So thank you to everybody for that.
Mark, any closing comments?
Yeah, I think this is another situation where it really is true that you get what you give, and especially here on Google+, we see time and again that the people who themselves are the biggest engagers, who take the time to engage in other communities, engage with other people's posts, end up getting the most engagement themselves. You create that atmosphere around yourself that I'm here for the discussion, I'm here for the community, I'm here for the relationships that we build. So that would be my closing thought is if you want more engagement in your own world, go out and give it first.
And I'll add one too, which is a tip that we didn't actually share in the show, but if you are looking to, just starting up and you're looking to build your presence in a community or, a physical community or on a social media site here on Google+, you need to learn the way the people you're trying to engage with want to be engaged with. You have to learn their modality, right? And it's different for each person. And I could tell you, while I'm an engineer by background, since I run a business, I've spent a lot of years involved in sales, and I'll just illustrate with an example. If the person is good at responding by text, then I text them. If they're good at getting a call on their mobile phone, I call them on their mobile phone. If they want to get mentioned and have a social media conversation or an email, I use the medium they want. So if you're looking to build a relationship and engage with somebody, even if it's all just within Google+, do it in the manner in which they want, and it will make it easier for them to respond. Martin gave you a great clue. Plus mention him. Don't rely on the notifications. That's how you get to Martin.
But more than that, Hangouts, for me. Plus mentions is fine. If people have got something specific, but plus mention for the sake of it, and they go, well, I've just been called in. Hangouts, I never feel like that because I feel that the conversation is there, and I can, and I also have people's photos. I can see Lenny, I can see Dustin, I can see Ken, I can see Gina. I can connect, and I really like that. So definitely, that's the big fan of connecting in Hangouts and events. And this is a great Q&A. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Mark.
Well, there's already a groundswell, of a movement happening here, a populist movement rising up within our comments to bring Martin Shervington back. Bring Martin Shervington back. So the people are speaking, Martin.
To be discussed.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. That's it for the Digital Marketing Answers Show for today. Have a great day.
Bye now.